Good morning, Sussex Squad. Good morning, Sussex Squad Nation, and our co-hosts on the chat now. I'm sure. How many co-hosts we have at the moment?
We have 19 co-hosts, and the first co-host to arrive, a very good morning, or I suppose good afternoon now, to you, Black Queen.
Of course, Black Queen. I love that Black Queen. That is incredible. Oh my goodness. Happy Sunday, you two.
Happy
How are you
Sunday.
guys doing?
Bon
Happy
dimanche.
Sunday. Bon dimanche.
I know we almost started on time. If my mother did not, if my mother did
What
not
is
wake up,
almost?
but she did. She wake up right on time. I mean, we were ready to go at 12:30, and she just like, nope, not now. So we had to attend attention to her. But she's doing okay, guys. Just in case you guys wondering, but it's very difficult. I think she's actually talking now. But anyway, yeah. So we're gonna try to get through this because it's been a very, very interesting week. Should I say? Where's Megan?
Where is Meghan?
That is the question,
is the big
$1 million question. But that is one that, we all can answer. She's home with her kids, cooking some good meal. Unlike many of those other socialite women, which I don't think she is a socialite at all, she cooks for her husband and her kids, and she do taking care of them. She doesn't need 100 nannies to do so. I'm sure she have one or two, but certainly she cooked for her kids and her husband. So that's what she was doing.
Well, and she has like a million businesses
And
going
a
at this
million
point.
business going on.
So
And
she's a busy lady.
as I say, they are a team. So I think we're gonna go through the whole questions of where's Megan and why wasn't she was in England. I think Harry can answer that question for them. We also going to do I don't know. I'm just rambling right now. So I hope we don't have like a 3-4 hour shows because we know, Royal Sussex will not watch or listen of us for 3 hours. So we gotta make sure
Yeah.
Got to make
that
it
is
count.
not 3 hours. He only have a span of half hour maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
We're about to curse Baron out for starting at 12:30 last night, knowing that it was going to then be included in this morning's service.
I know. That's all his fault. You know what I mean? Because, as I said again, it's not like if you miss a day, you miss a lot. It's also if you miss one segment, you miss a lot. Because, again, I was listening last night and I pick it up this morning again to continue, listening. And I was like, oh my God, I think I need to change my whole, sort of what I was going to do and do this. And so, yeah, so that's what we were going to do. So let's move right along. As our co-hosts are doing.
Exactly.
Thank you
We
for
have-
being here with me, my my guests, Charles and George. So, yeah.
Exactly, and good morning and good afternoon, really, to everyone else that has joined now. Second after Black Queen, we saw Susie Q. We see Legs, hi Legs, Elizabeth Sconiars. We've got the squad showing up. So good afternoon and happy Sunday to everyone.
Yeah, I think Legs has a channel. Am I correct with that? I think she does.
Not sure, but
Yes.
please let us know. And
Yes,
you
I
know,
know she
I
has
really
a
like your
channel.
username.
Yes, I know she has a channel, or she just very because I know I watch her. No, Legs, please, could you tell us? I know. And
She'll let us know. She'll drop out.
that's
But
right.
hello everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Well, actually, we're cruising into the afternoon at this point. So thanks so much for everyone popping in. Appreciate it. And so shall we get going with Church Nelly?
Yes. Oh my God, did you do that Church and Alley thing?
It's going to have to be, we're saving it for next week.
Oh my God, Church and Alley, you should see. That's one of the part that was delayed. They always tried to make a video specifically for you, but they couldn't figure out how to. You guys are all tech people. I don't understand why.
It
you
wasn't
always
that-
have
And apparently,
yeah.
Legs
problem
is a
doing
man. So Legs is a he.
Oh, it's a he. Okay. That's
So
wonderful.
now we know.
Now we know. Yes, that's
It's-
wonderful.
Yeah, it wasn't a tech issue technically. It was a little bit different. But
I'm
we're
so
gonna
sorry,
make it
Legs.
special.
Don't mean that. No disrespectful at all.
Okay.
Yes.
So we already talked a little bit about where in the world is Meghan, but on the
Yes.
Church Nelly report, we're going to say where in the world is Harry, because literally you cannot pin this man down.
That's right.
He has been running around
Where is
like
Harry in the
crazy.
world?
Oh man,
That's
that man's
right.
passport has got to be like a phone book at this point. So anyway, so here we go. So for Church Nelly, hope you're doing well, dear, and that you have shown up. I'm sure you'll probably pop on a little bit later. But so as we said, Harry is completely not slowing down after Climate Week and the UN General Assembly that was here in New York. So he's literally been bouncing around the globe ever since. So the latest thing on September 30th, he actually appeared at the Well Child Awards for literally like a hot minute. So he was
I know.
there, he did his thing.
Less than
less than 24
hours.
hours, he was out.
Yeah.
He has no time to be spending over in the UK, which who can blame him really? So, but for those of you who do not know, because I myself had to get clued in when I was doing the research on this, the Well Child Awards is in association with GSK, and it was established in 2005 to celebrate the remarkable and inspirational bravery of children and young people from across the UK who have coped against all odds with serious illnesses and disabilities. So I did not know that, but that's just another
great
fantastic organization. And, you know, Harry's just out there being his best self. So what can I say? Doing a great job.
That's what he said he wants to do with his life.
Yeah,
Do good in the world.
That's it. So, but immediately after that, like, I don't even know if this man's head hit a pillow. He immediately took off to Africa, to Lesotho, so for Sentabale.
His favorite place to be.
Yeah, Africa is definitely one of his top faves.
He actually
for
was
sure.
thinking about even moving there at one point if he could make it work. Yeah.
For
go
sure.
ahead.
I mean, I would love to go to Africa. I think it'd be an amazing experience. Definitely on the bucket list. So anyway, he flew in, did his thing at Lesotho. The first thing he did actually was meet with the royal family, the prime minister. So obviously the heavy hitters, and I think they've all just been close and family friends for a long time. And
Well, they call him, you know, that he is a part of the family, his brother. That's why the prince said, you know, that's my brother.
that's right.
Yeah.
So, and then as soon as he got done, you know, obviously, you know, getting some good family love, he went immediately out to see the good work that's being done by this charity. So, and I have to say, I myself was not aware of how powerful this charity was and how well they have done their job over the years, because I'm sure, as you know, everyone is aware, but there are certain places in Africa that was hit with the HIV virus and epidemic harder than others. And Lesotho was probably the very worst hit of all African countries. And what they've done as a result of this charity is over 90% of the people in Lesotho actually have currently know their HIV status at the moment and are currently receiving treatment, which is just astounding given like how really bad it was in that country, and really, you know, speaks to the good work and how good work can really get done.
Yes, it is an amazing charity, and they are doing incredible work there. And I think Harry is doing an amazing job. I know last week I happened to mention and say that, you know, we will interview Prince Harry. And no, we don't have an interview
very
right now.
confidently. Yeah.
Very, well, I am confident about it, but it went. Literally, people were calling. Did you interview him? Did you get the interview? It's like, it was like, no, not yet, but we will. That's what I do believe, because I do believe the work that you guys are doing and the work that he's doing sort of match. And I think it would be really great for you guys. It's my hope for you guys. I don't even know if you guys want that, but I'm just saying, I think the work you guys are doing, you know, and the kind of, you know, people you guys have been able to interview. And I saw the list, the upcoming list of people you guys are yet going to interviews, that, you know, he will fit in right there because it's the same type of work. And I think, you know, as someone that was a part of the Sussex Squad, was very often reporting on other people news, it would be nice to have one of us, you know, one of the squad, whether it's us here or anybody else's, to actually take part in those type of interviews, seeing the work, you know, have a way to talk about the work, what they're doing. not the gossip and the whole thing. That we don't care about that. What we do care about and what we are supporting here is about the great, wonderful work that he is doing and his crew is doing that is inspire us and specifically you two over there to do the work that you guys are doing. So it would be really nice at some point that the camp of Harry and Meghan give us some type of access to actually seeing the work and being able to talk about the work that they are doing. And I'm really confident whether it's now or 10 years later, we will get to do that.
There you go.
So we'll strive for that. But no, we don't have an interview with Harry planned unless he happened to call us. Somebody from his camp happened to call us because I'm very well aware that they are aware of our work. So that I know for sure.
I was gonna say it's
But-
in our plans. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily in their plans.
And that is
Exactly.
that is all my plan here. My
Yeah, the
you know, ladies
timeline
are-
is still outstanding.
exactly.
We will
It
let you
doesn't even
guys
have
know.
anything to do with you guys. I don't think you guys even know that you know what I'm trying to push here. But yes, I think it would be really nice to be able to be a part of the pool, the people that would talk about the work, who've seen the work, being able to have our own interpretation, you know, how we seen it, you know, grow and sort of it would be really nice. And I hope we get a chance at some point to do that. So no,
Yes.
we don't have any
Just to be
interview
clear.
yet.
Just to be
with
clear,
Prince
there is no current plans.
No.
So yes. So that's
Stop calling.
put a pin. We got it. So as we said, so that's just amazing work they're doing over there. So as soon as he basically went on the ground and really wanted to check the status of what's going on and all the good work that they're doing and seeing the people that he really cares about over in Lesotho, he immediately went over to Johannesburg to a private dinner and a panel discussion hosted by Sintabale, where he really was all about talking with senior level executives over in South Africa, really about how philanthropy and corporations could better collaborate in order to enhance and increase outcomes
That's right.
through these charitable donations. So how you can actually make them better. So, and again, just showing up and doing good work. Church and Nelly has landed, so everyone should know that hold on to your wigs. Church and Nelly's here.
Church and Nelly, oh my God. Yeah, I was saying earlier, the boys, they were trying to make a video for you, but they didn't have enough time to figure out how to presenting it to you. But that's something that you should be looking forward to.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with me. I was not play a part of that.
Abdicate your responsibility. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Preemptively.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So, so that's basically what was going on, and where Harry was running around before he decided to go back and obviously spend some good quality time at home. And while he was actually over in South Africa, he actually released a new BetterHelp video.
Did you call him Ariel? You just
What are you
said
smoking?
Ariel.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did too. Harry.
You better get off that stuff. So he released a new BetterHelp video with Paul Gasol, who's a very famous basketball player. And that video is really talking about how to maintain peak performance. And really just through the stress of life, through the stress of basically, you know, high level activities, if it's on the basketball court in his particular case, or if it's in the boardroom, doesn't really matter. It's about talking about how you actually keep your mental game sharp and how do you strengthen your mind in order to drive through and as well as overcome obstacles, which again, I think everyone could be, you know,
I seen
would be
a
a
part
good
of
job
the
for him.
video, which I think it's a part of one of the clip we'll play later on. But it's wonderful.
Yes, it is fantastic. And then finally, there is a new video that also dropped regarding actually promoting a new Netflix show. And this particular show is actually about the U.S. Open of Polo, where Harry is actually one of 6 people who are profiled during the show. And they just talk about what it takes in order to actually achieve such a high level of standard and of play, but also just talks about more or less kind of the culture in and around polo and the relationships between the players. Because as we all know, Harry's been doing this forever, and then all of these are his very close friends and competitors that he's been there doing that with a long time.
I think polo is such a wonderful, a great sport. I have been to a couple polo match, especially if you like horses and I think it would be many people sort of, are not really into that sport just because they don't understand it. But it's such a great sport, and I think that by what Harry is doing is gonna get a lot of people into polo, just like tennis, right? Tennis was sort of become something from what I understand where many people become interested in tennis once Serena Williams and Venus Williams become a part of that kind of society. And so I think bringing, polo now will create a lot of interest because many people, especially, black folks think somehow that, we are not, we don't play, but there's a lot of part of the world where black people do play polo.
Right.
So it would be great to introduce it to the world for those who not um, know much about that game.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. And then also, it's more than just people running around on horses hitting
Oh,
balls
it's
with
a great
sticks.
sport because
So
the thing I mean, the reason why that sport it's so incredible because you could end up really hurt yourself or hurt the horse. All the different technique, and so you have to know what you're doing. So it is really an incredible sport.
right, and also hilarious. So Sylvia Fielder is asking Church Nelly for a wig advice, which I just think is because of this community that we can now confidently say where people should go buy their wigs. And apparently, it's not Temu or Amazon. Do not go there. So that's just words
Okay,
words
so
of wisdom from
Where
Church
should
Nelly.
where should I go if I
So
ever
that's what I'm
want a
saying. So
wig?
it's coming. I
Is
mean,
that
it's,
an
it is hot.
announcement?
Yeah. This is hot on the chat today. So we will find out.
Okay,
I'll get back to you.
wonderful.
So that's basically it for Church Nelly. So the next actually is Connie Bomber. Let's find out what
Connie.
is going on with the community update. Oh, and it looks like George is going to.
I was going to say, actually, before
Jump
we
in.
get into the pre-planned community updates, there was one that just came through in the chat, which is very exciting to see. And so just want to just interject right away with that one, because it is wonderful to see you, Sylvia Fielder, say that to God be the glory for this beautiful Sunday morning. He's lifted me up and set me on my way. She has a praise report that she was able to get up and get dressed in her Sunday best and go to church.
Hello.
Very
That
nice.
is amazing news. Amazing,
That is amazing.
Incredible
news.
news. Thank you, God. You see, this is the power of God.
There you
The
go.
power of God
Yep, and community at that.
and community. Yeah.
And so now, like you said, now the next thing is just to get Church Nelly to get the inside scoop on where to get the best wig, and then we'll go from there.
There you go.
Amen.
So first up for Connie Bomber community update. I don't believe we've seen her in the chat, but she always comes in a little bit late because she's way out. She's in Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So first and foremost is that we do have a Meghan sighting. So everyone's talking, where is she? Where is she? Where
Meghan?
is she?
Yes,
Well,
she
we
showed
can
up
tell
last
you.
night.
She did indeed. She showed up Saturday on August
Unexpected.
5th.
Yeah.
Made a surprise appearance at the Children's Hospital LA 2024 Gala. So it was very much a surprise visit to the event, which actually takes place every 2 years, and it pays tribute to the Children's Hospital's patients and hospital pediatric workers, which include some of the very best physicians, researchers, caregivers, all on the organization's website. So very much on brand for what it is that they do, because obviously it's all about the children, making sure that they show up and actually promote and as well as uplift, the children's and kind of their support community. So that's where she was. She was
And-
out there doing her good stuff.
And again, where is Meghan? Well, if you looked at her last night, she looked very well rested. She looked youthful. She looks like she's happy with her kids and her husband. And so she showed up her best self. She, in fact, even used one of her past Gap outfit. She wore that outfit at the New York. God, what's the name of that place on? In God, by the water.
The Javits?
No, that big boat.
The big boat? The big boat by the
That
water.
Turner Museum.
That turned into, so you're talking about the Intrepid?
The Intrepid. Yes, that's where she wore that dress the first
Good
time.
memory.
right after-
I do not.
Right after she, I think it was right after she gave birth to Lilibet, possibly.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she looked incredible. Obviously that dress was retailer for her now. Her body is totally different, but she looked amazing both way with her baby after weight to now. I mean, she looked wonderful. What an incredible dress. And she looked very relaxed and very, not bother. And so that was good to see her. Well, she showed up
She did.
doing pretty much very similar work that Harry is doing. You know what I mean? Being with kids and supporting wonderful charities.
Just doing good work. So here is just the quick update. So for prayers, we will continue prayers for Baron, Black Queen, as well as her daughter, Claire Kane, Dorothy Ross, Fatima, Mrs. Clutch Sussex, Sylvia, and Chef Sandy Lover. So all of you, we've talked about it several times now, and we certainly want to keep you in our prayers. For new prayers that were asked is Angela Simmons with help for her vision problems, and Lit for Sussex, who was actually in a car accident. And the people in the car accident, I believe, were named Sherry Ware as well as Rafaela. And then, so those basically any of the new stuff. So if you guys have more prayer requests that you'd like to be included, please do just drop them in the chat. And we'll be certain to uplift them and mention them next week. And just finally, just in terms of the overall prayers, we certainly did want to continue prayers for those who are still suffering from the Hurricane Helene and the aftermath. The current count is 223 people have died as a result of this storm, and it is one of the most damaging storms in U.S. history.
What?
So,
Really?
Yeah.
More than Louisiana?
I think it just in terms of absolute, the amount of damage is because it was very concentrated in Louisiana when Katrina hit. This was just everywhere from Georgia all the way through Tennessee and Virginia. So it was just a much greater span and size of area. And then also just the sheer monetary damage was just extraordinary. And I can even say for myself that one of my very dear friends actually was impacted. He lost, I think, almost his entire business as a result of the storm.
Yeah. I mean, for me, whenever I hear anything about storm, the first thing that comes in mind is Katrina and Louisiana. Like I can't seem to, remove that image.
Yeah, it was definitely incredible. And Church Nelly, thank you so much for the super sticker. We saw you and we really appreciate it. And apparently she's going to give us the inside scoop on wigs. As soon as, as well as the inside scoop of trying to become Nacho's new masseuse is apparently what she's trying to do.
Nacho. Oh my God, he looks incredible. I think yesterday I noticed Royal Sussex did, put him on. There's something that he attend with Verve champagne, of course. Yeah, so that was really good.
Yeah.
And by the way, just on the note, seeing you here, Church Nelly, especially after the storm came and knowing you're down south, probably nearby, really glad to see you on here and that you're doing well.
That
That's
we
right.
hope all your family and people are doing great.
That's right. So now, just in terms of the new news and support, one, just kind of as we always mention, Dre does have this new channel, so please go check him out. And then the Duchess of Success new book is out. It does look amazing, and we are actually...
Did we order it yet?
It's queued up to be ordered
It is
today.
queued up to be ordered today.
Okay, great.
So yeah, so we're definitely going to go check that out, and we suggest and would invite everyone here to do the same, because I'm sure it's going to be amazing, and we certainly need to support the squad. And then last, we are still waiting on some recipes. Everyone throws down with some amazing updates in terms of what they're cooking during our podcast, and yet no recipes. So please do that. Susie Q, you said that you're busy. You're probably busy cooking some delicious food. So we see that, and certainly drop in any recipes that you may have.
Especially from the macaroni au gratin.
Oh yeah, I mean we've had the
call
curry. There's crazy curry that's been out there that's talking about. I mean there's so many. I have not really had much
How do you
to eat
say
today.
it in English? Macaroni
and
gratin.
cheese.
Yes, mac and cheese. Yes, there we go.
I know.
Mac and cheese. Yep.
Yep.
There you go.
So that's kind of where we are with Connie Bomber's update.
And we do have one last thing to add within this section. And we mentioned this during the last service, and we're going to mention it again because we really do need all of your support. This is Charles and I asking and taking this platform and community that Lady Sussex has graciously invited us into to ask for your support for that initiative, what we had just mentioned about wanting to interview Harry and the work that he's doing because it ties to our work, and that is with our initiative called Planet First Action. And we were at the UN General Assembly. We're at Climate Week. It's really focused in on advancing that mission of sustainability and environmental justice. There's a lot of different things that go with it, but we'll just say if you would love to learn more or even just support us, we would really, really appreciate that. We'll drop in the chat right now the link to the Instagram. There's a lot of pictures from Climate Week and from the UN General Assembly that we really want to share. We just want to get some audience there for them to see it. We know some of you are not on Instagram, and we respect that. Absolutely. And if that is the case, there's also some other places where we are, which is on Twitter, as well as, of course, the YouTube channel. Those handles are in the chat now as well. And as Lady Sussex mentioned, we are really excited because we have some incredible guests we were privileged to interview that are going to be coming out in the coming weeks. So again, all of your support, everyone who has already supported, subscribed, thank you so much. We really can't tell you how much it means to us. And for everyone else that's listening in that hasn't yet subscribed, it would mean the world.
That's right. And one other thing I will actually say just before we get into the actual service is that Jeddah does bring up a really important point, which is that we should always pray for both Meghan and Harry's safety because, for all the obvious reasons that we talk about every Sunday.
That is absolutely. That is something that, we have to do all the time and every time, just because we can't think just because things are doing well, they are doing well and great, and somehow that they're not after them. I mean, just think about this week, where is Meghan? What does that mean? Where is Meghan? 1 minute if she's out, why is she out? Why she's this? Why she's that? Oh, we need her. We need her. It's like they after this woman. Anyway.
And
yeah.
We see your addition there, Shirley, and we will include your grandson Kyle in the prayer list. That he's having some health issues, and that he's a great young man. We will be sure to keep him in our prayers as well, and as well in future services. And as we kind of round out the Connie Bomber portion of the service.
And also subscribe to us, because many people listen to us and don't subscribe. They always tell us we forgot to do that.
Well, this is what we rely on our co-hosts that are in the chat,
subscribe,
reminding everyone, like Black
share.
Queen.
Yes.
Please subscribe and share. And with that, actually, that is a perfect segue to this reminder of just saying a deep thank you and our sincere gratitude from everyone here that's putting on the show, for everyone who has been listening and subscribing and sharing and watching. And especially to everyone like just today, Church Nelly, who's given that super sticker, that support. It really makes a big difference, as Lady Sussex frequently reminds us of our endeavors to get some new microphones. Things like
that's
that.
right.
But also a very, very special thank you to each of the members who are supporting us month in, month out, many of whom are here with us in the chat right now. And just to go through from those members who have been with us for 16 months at this point.
What do you mean 16 months?
16 months. Patrick Marcel, Marvel Walker, R.R. Carter, Lydia Washington, V. Brame, Antonio TC416, in other words, Majesty Sussex Report, April Showers, Church Nelly, Black Queen, Kay Castillo, Eve Bomber and Connie Bomber, and Sylvia Fielder, V. Thomas, Lady Rose, and Bryce Thompson. Thank you all so much for your support.
Amen.
Thank you.
Glory to the great Lord.
And with that, I think, unless you've got anything else, Lady Sussex, we can remind everyone
that's right.
that we are not experts.
No.
We can't even get the videos ready. We can't be on time.
No.
We can't do any of these things. So it's clear that we're not experts. And so that with all the things that we're sharing, we're here to ask questions and hopefully highlight the people who are doing what we believe is to be the good work to make the world a better place in a way that actually does help them and does barren justice for creating that opportunity for us. But with that, just a reminder for everyone to do your own research, to not just take our word for it, to double check those things. And that even though this is a church service, we're not here to change anyone's beliefs. We're not evangelical in that way.
And I will say barren, but also the our co-hosts that who listen to us every day are the reason why we still here, we still able to do this. Um, but I think what we try to do here again, beside asking questions, obviously we don't speak for the Sussex squads. We don't believe what we believe here. It's what everyone believes, especially in the Sussex squad. But we are here to ask questions, and sometimes we're not gonna get it right. But that's why we have you guys as our co-host. And if we don't get it right, we will correct whatever we may, or apologize to anything that we may say, or whatever that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because
of
it's
course.
about asking questions. It's about understanding words that been used either for whatever the engineer, whether it's to separate us, whether it's to do us harm, or whether it's just to drive us forward. We need to understand these words, and we have obviously our own interpretation how we view those words. But that does not mean it's anybody else's views, or they see it that way, or they think that way. And specifically, even you guys here being my guests here, those are not particularly you guys viewers, and particularly see things like that. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that we respect everyone's views, and how they see things and view things, and how they internalize things for themselves. So always do your own research, and please, and yeah.
Yeah,
So let's get
Wonderful.
the show started.
That's it.
we'll do it. And before we do, we'll just say a special thank you to Vibrame and Legs for the super stickers.
Thank you,
both
Legs.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sussex Squad Nation, and my co-hosts and my
Guests. Yeah.
guest here. Today's word is risk. R-I-S-K, risk. Can anybody, what's going on?
You're jumping right into the word. Yeah.
Yes, the word risk. We are going to look into that word. I believe we have done that words before, but we want to go back, revisit that word, and get into it. And maybe that will explain, why we are where we are right now, and how should we interpreting rest. Because we know everyone take rest, right? You can't possibly move forward to do anything, good or bad, without taking rest. We all take rest. But I think it is very important when we looked at the kind of risk the media, the royal family, everyone is taking, and have a better understanding why taking those risks. And maybe perhaps by looking into this word, maybe it will explain somewhat why. Maybe. We don't know. So, Charles.
Sure. So let's get into it a little bit. So risk was first used in English in 1621, and it comes from the French risque. The first definition is the possibility of loss or injury. Another way to say that is peril. The second is someone or something that creates or suggests a hazard. The third is a chance of loss or the perils of the subject matter of an insurance contract, or a person or thing that is a specified hazard to an insurer, or a insurance hazard from a specified cause or source, and the chance that an investment will lose value. Those are all things in the last couple are just kind of types of risk specifically, which I thought was interesting that they actually specify a specific industry. So insurance is very much looking at risk, and investments and finance is very much looking at risk, which I think actually is telling in and of itself. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper than usual and look into risk.
But before you getting more, I would like you to put a pen on that word that you just used a minute ago, to lose value. Can you make sure you remind, because I want to go back to that particularly point, but please continue.
Sure. So in looking at this particular word and then trying to understand, one of the thought exercises that I wanted to do is, okay, well, what actually causes someone to actually undertake risk? What is something? What are some of the reasons why people would even want to do something like that? And they actually have this thing, and I'm not going to get into kind of all the big things. And I know that George is going to come with a much more robust analysis of this particular word. But I thought it would be interesting to go through and actually look up. Okay, there's actually something called the Big 5 Factor Model, which looks at people's personality, and then talks a little bit about actually kind of why people do this. And personality actually has been found to have a very strong influence on risk-taking behaviors.
Is it coming from a world-known psychiatrist? Where is that information is coming from?
It is from the National Health Institute.
Well, it is important that we're stating that.
Well, yes, I was going to get to that. So when looking at this, individual personality traits differences actually influence risk proneness, and as they involve motivational forces that promote risky decisions. Insulation against concerns about negative consequences, they act as cognitive barriers against these consequences. And numerous personality models developed in psychology research. One is basically this Big 5 Factor Model, and is actually composed of these 5 particular things. Neuroticism, extroversion, openness, agreeableness, and conscientious factors. Those are the 5 things which seem to be the most generally recognized when you start looking in the study of the relationship between personality and then also risk behavior. Now, when looking at neuroticism, actually, I just thought it would be very interesting to actually go in and see, okay, well, what actually does this mean in and of itself, like this particular word? And it boils down to neurosis. So someone actually having some sort of neurosis. And a neurosis is basically a mental or an emotional disorder that affects not only the personality, but is also accompanied by less disordered perception of reality. And that is in basically kind of the psychosis. And it does not result in the disturbance of use of language or is accompanied by various physical, physiological, or mental disturbances. So what it is very interesting, is that you have this, it's an emotional disorder is what this neurosis means, which I think is really interesting when you start looking back on other things and, okay, well, who else is actually doing these kind of risky behaviors? And this neuroticism here is actually related to a negative effect in terms of their severity or sensitivity to punishment. So now high levels of this neuroticism may lead to risk aversion in most domains as ways of actually avoiding guilt or anxiety regarding these negative outcomes. But you have that in contrast to this inverse relationship between neuroticism and the risk taking, or kind of in when you start talking about health. So it's just really interesting in terms of, okay, well, you have this mental disorder that more or less is trying to pin you in one particular direction because that's the way you actually regard kind of where you're trying to go versus how you actually perceive the risk of being able to do so. So it's really, really interesting. And when you look at that conversely to kind of this extroversion, which is kind of the next thing in terms of a personality trait, it's a generalized need for stimulation, and it's manifested in this positive effect and sensitivity towards reward. So you're basically, the reward is much more interesting to you, so you're willing to take that much more risk, which I think is really interesting. And so when you start thinking about, okay, well, look, you have these things can also kind of mix and match too. So when you start thinking about, okay, well, you're neurotic. And so you start thinking about, okay, well, look, these are actually some of these personality things, and you're kind of trying to distort your reality because you're nervous about these things. And then you also have this kind of extroversion, which basically means that, okay, well, there's actually this positive thing you're trying to seek for. It actually reinforces that thing. So it's just really interesting about trying to get to it, about, your own personality, but actually drives you to these things and kind of your environment that you happen to be setting yourself up in. So anyway, there's a whole bunch that actually you can go into. It's a very deep and complex topic, but I just thought that was an interesting point I wanted to get into.
Those are a bunch of big words. Excuse me. I would love to deep dive into that, me personally, just read on it to see where they were trying to get at, because certainly there is people who have that mental attitude state where that's how they live, period. They take risks. They are okay taking risks, good or bad. But if it is a personality trait, is it something that, all of us have? Because I don't see a world that where you don't take risks. Like we all at some point. So I wonder if there is different scale of that sort of, diagnosis, so to speak, that they speak on to have that kind of personality trait, sort of, because anything we do, whether we interpreted it as risk taking, we can't move forward, good or bad, without taking risks. If said there is certain people that doesn't particularly have a reason or any reason at all. They just love taking risks and anything.
Well,
so I wonder if that's where the difference lies.
Well, I think what this is actually saying is that there's basically 5 different reasons why people do it. So everyone takes a risk, but basically the impetus for that risk actually generates, depending on your personality, and it expresses it in these 5 different ways.
I see. I would love to dive deep into that and read more about it. But George,
I have a suggestion, and you are the host, so you can say no. But I think the next sort of journal, the next sort of some thinking to bring into the conversation might make even more sense, be more valuable after the questions you had raised in terms of the headlines that are currently out there.
Correct.
And shouting from the rooftops of, where's Meghan? And then a reminder to history in terms of what the sort of language had been used in the press in the past. If you want to go through those things.
That's right.
Those things first, because that is what you mentioned at the top. There's the media right now. Taking a step back, this question of risk, it is, to what you've just said, Lady Sussex, everyone's decision to move forward is, one way or another, it is an assessment of multiple conditions, and you're taking a risk one way or another. Even if you choose not to walk out your door in the morning, that is a risk in and of itself in terms of.
Yeah, that is the reason why I want to come back to this word, which I believe we have done before, certainly not the way we're doing it today, is to look at over the week and see the incredible work that Harry is doing and what was in the headlines. Okay, so the headlines was about sort of where is Meghan, and if you looked at the thumbnails of all those different negative shows, what they were saying. And so for me, I needed to ask the question, why taking these risks or saying things that you guys very clearly, we know that is not true. Everybody could debunk it, even for people that doesn't particularly care or into Harry and Meghan, but they have heard it. It just doesn't make any sense. Why are you guys all saying these things? Why there is like sort of, where is Meghan? At least for us, when we did ask where is Kate, because we were truly really concerned about her her health and what was going on. It was just like somebody just completely disappeared and for 7, almost like 8 months. So yes, but the woman was just in a trip with her husband. They've been doing a lot together. And you guys do know why she's not in England, why her husband does not want to bring her in England. And so to be sort of running a campaign, so to speak, where is Meghan, and said a bunch of really awful things that I'm sure you guys can see some of the thumbnails, if that's on the screen right now for them to see. It makes you wonder, should we really go back and revisit when Jeremy, what is his last name again?
Clarkson. When
Jeremy Clarkson, sort of write this awful, horrible article, which turned probably everybody's stomach, you know. But I feel like the most important thing that needed it to be done after this article, that the royal family should have come out and denounced that. And I don't remember, maybe they did. I don't know. Please let me know if I'm wrong with that. I don't remember them come out and denounce it. And so to me, spite of everybody was mad, right? That people still not talking about. If there's another form of what he said, what they want, what that kind of society, that kind of clique want for Meghan to parade her around, if we cannot have her in person to do what we want with her, you know, throw feces at her and shout at her. Like, I really would like you to read that part, what he actually said.
Yeah, and it is also important for just even the historical record. It is on the screen, but that excerpt specifically from the longer article that he published, that the Sun allowed to be published, I believe it was the Sun, said Meghan though is a different story. I hate her, not like I hate Nicola Sturgeon or Rose West. I hate her on a cellular level. At night, I'm unable to sleep as I lie there grinding my teeth and dreaming of the day when she is made to parade naked through the streets of every town in Britain while the crowd chants shame and throws lumps of excrement at her.
Exactly. There is a shocking thing that's come through when you read this, and at the time and until now, where it's very easy to dismiss it and like, I cannot believe that he says that, and then we move on. But for what are we seeing here? What allowed him to say that? That I hate her. Think about that word, that someone able to express themselves nationally, worldly, someone that popular, so well known, to be able to put print and paper to use that word. Where'd that come from? What festered that?
Well, I think it's also very interesting if you keep in mind, if I'm not mistaken, he actually had dinner with Camilla the night before.
That woman, yes.
So it's just really interesting that the night before he had dinner, and then the very next day he actually printed this, which I think just, again, to set historical precedent, one, but two, also to provide some context in terms of what you said, like where this may be coming from.
If you think about what many of the medias have been doing, to me, it's exactly what he expressed. You know, they have no shame, so to speak, to fuel these words, this nastiness about this woman. And when you think up to this week asking, where is this woman? Like the vision that I have when he said this, and every time I looked at what those horrible tabloids are doing, the image that come in my head, I don't know, for those of you that watch Passion of Christ, that kind of image, and I'm not comparing Meghan at all with Jesus Christ. Please, God, please. No, that's not what I'm doing. But I'm saying for myself, the image that I get is this man that was being paraded around the street and everything. People were shouting out in lines and everything who he actually really was, and was not taking that he was this. Like I'm having that kind of image, and I'm wondering, is there any point in our history we have seen someone that's so hated that they have been going after this woman for how long has it been? Over maybe 6-7 years now? And they're making it very clear, obviously, we don't like her. They use the word hate. They use all sort of things. And why are they taking that kind of, what is it that make them think it's okay? Spite of right now, people are starting really realizing there is an agenda. There is something very clear. It's happening. And everybody knows what is happening. But yet they are continue taking this risk like, we don't care. That person's life is not value for us. She is like someone that, you know, we want her head on a stick,
well, yeah,
so to speak.
I want to
for
interject
historical,
because I think this is actually you're bringing up a really important point. to tie what has happened historically to what continues to happen today, and that very clear narrative that was published in a national newspaper for a global audience, describing Meghan being paraded naked through the streets with excrement thrown at her, people shouting at her. That is a clear vision of what was being articulated. And to your point, today maybe the approach has changed, maybe the methods are different, but when you look at the contrast between reality of knowing where Meghan is, what she's doing, and how she and Harry are operating together as a team versus what the headlines actually are reflecting today, asking the question of where is she and trying to make it seem like Harry's happy without her, all of that nonsense. To your point, it is a digital versioning of that narrative that Jeremy Clarkson had written in 2-3 years ago, whatever it is. It is the same thing, and it is important to remember that there's not a change. It's just a different approach to achieving that same goal.
Because even if some of them don't use the word hate like this man, because they don't need to, to use the word hate, but their action say the very same thing. We hate this because what else? Every single day you wake up, you get up out of your bed, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna need to find something to say about this woman, even though I have not seen her, even though she has not been a part, of the, social scene like that. She has not done anything that wrong, but yet we are going to. Where is that hate coming from? And the fact that they are taking the risk to express that in a global stage, knowingly what that effect could be for them. And that's why I wanted to understand that word a little bit better. So, Josh, go ahead.
Yes. And I think this is actually, it kind of builds from some of the things that Charles was sharing, and you give me way too much credit, Charles. These are not, this is not my thing. This is just people who are much smarter than I writing and so many these wonderful thoughts in academic journals. This one is actually a review of a work that's titled Risk-Taking in International Politics, Prospect Theory in American Foreign Policy. And it's by the review is by Rose McDermott. The review, rather, is by David J. Perrin. The original work is by Rose McDermott. And it's actually very, very interesting because what Charles was just talking about is kind of at the individual level. This is still individual in some ways, but it's also thinking systematically in terms of the way those risks come to life and the systems of understanding and analyzing why a risk is taken, the political calculus, the psychological aspects, how they all kind of relate to each other. So this is just the first few paragraphs from that journal. It says, international relations is an inherently risky realm. And I'll actually pause there just saying that it's also particularly fitting because it's coming from the context of international relations just because of the stage that Harry and Meghan occupy and how the press is global in nature and how all of these things are intertwined in terms of international politics as well. Not to mention just taking it as an analogy to understand sort of the individual case. But it reads, international relations is an inherently risky realm. Policy choices have implications for gains and losses at home and abroad, whether economic, military, or political. Leaders make decisions in uncertain environments, and policy outcomes are determined partly by their choices and partly by the choices of foreign leaders. Understanding, explaining, and predicting when leaders are more or less likely to take risks and what type of risks they are likely to take is of the utmost importance. Two major trends in analyzing risk decision-making in international relations are the rational choice and the psychological choice approaches. The rational choice approach, derived from economics, has developed a normative model of how decisions should be made, emphasizing how cost-benefit calculations combine with probabilities for achieving the best or optimal outcome given certain constraints. So a very rational, okay, you get, this is the probability of something happening, this is the cost versus the benefit, and then someone makes a decision. He goes on to say the psychological approach highlights certain impediments to rational decision-making, such as leaders' personalities, stress, anger, dismissal of evidence inconsistent with prior beliefs, commitment to group solidarity, overconfidence, and attributing evil intent to the opponent. So this actually gets closer to what the source from the National Health Institute that Charles was sharing, the things that block just a truly rational decision in terms of some of the emotional and psychological elements and how things are perceived. What's interesting, though, is that those are sort of the two historical, more consistent and more traditional frames of understanding how those risks are determined and risk decisions are made. But the review is really of this work that's focused on the third approach. It says, more recently, a third approach to explaining risky policy decisions is drawn on the cognitive literature known as prospect theory. This is that book, Rose McDermott's Risk-Taking in International Politics, Prospect Theory, analyzes foreign policy decisions in the context of this growing literature. McDermott, an assistant professor of political science at Cornell University, provides a concise introduction to the prospect theory's findings and their implications for the analysis of foreign policy decision-making. Prospect theory differs from the rational choice and psychological approach in two critical ways. First, prospect theory indicates that people are risk-averse when seeking gains and risk-acceptant when attempting to avoid losses. Second, whether a situation is viewed as involving potential losses or gains depends critically on how the issue is framed, in other words, how it is perceived or portrayed, not necessarily as a function of its objective characteristics. And I think those two, all of
So
this
important.
is really, really
So
compelling.
fitting.
But that distinction of you're actually more risk averse when you're seeking gains, and you're more risk acceptant when you're attempting to avoid losses. And it's not actually about the objective nature, the probability, the potential gains or losses. It's about how you actually think about them, how you perceive them in the first place.
Yeah, because I mean, it's fair to say, I mean, even though they are now realizing, and I believe that they did realize it long ago, the loss of Harry, they didn't really care for Meghan, but the loss of Harry and not having him to be blame everything on him, that was a massive loss. The fact is that, you know, you see now the ex-prime minister, Boris Johnson, it's saying that they try to make him have Harry staying. Although, from what I understand, the palace had denied it's the case. I'm not sure. I think they denied it. But Boris Johnson said that, you know, they had asked him. And he did try to have a conversation with Harry because he realized the word that he used, just to get it right, is that asset that both in Harry and Meghan are.
And I think that's a really important element to contribute to this sort of conversation around what's going on today, and understanding the media's behavior, the royal family's behavior, and in particular looking at some of the tabloid media's continued sort of framing of headlines and the approach that they're taking to your question, Lady Sussex. Is like, why would you continue doing so things that are so obviously debunked when it so obviously can be proven that what they're saying is not true? And this idea says that they're actually more risk acceptant when they are attempting to avoid loss. And the position is in right now, they've already lost so much in terms of the Harry and Meghan's success, the fact that they have left on and gone on to be wildly successful in their own pursuits and endeavors. And so the position that has left the rest of the royal family in, the rest of the tabloid media in, is that it's already from a totally different context in terms of how they're perceiving things.
But, okay, I agree with that. But should I also look at it, the hatred part of it, the hate part of it, it's one that they cannot settle with themselves. Because there was and there was still ways that they could have deal with their loss and still not particularly lose them what feels like forever now. That hatred, because I don't buy anymore, and I think that, you know, we do, you know, make excuses for the media very often when we looked at those thumbnails or we looked at what they are saying. We say, oh, it's for click, or it's for money. But are we, as society, okay to upset hatred for money? Are we willing to say, oh, no, it's okay, don't worry about what they say, it's just for clickbait? Or, you know what they say, they really don't believe that, it's for money, as though that is the only way making money? Or should we see it for what it is, which is hate?
Yeah, and I think, honestly, that question, in the context of how this author and this body of work really is explaining the choice, the decision making when it is based on risks that you're taking, offers a really important way of framing the question. Because on the one hand, if you're saying they're just doing it because of a rational decision to make money, that is one way of making decisions and risk making decisions. And to your point, Lady Sussex, it is then to us as a society to say, is that something we want to accept, right? If that's the economic, normative decision making process, rational decision making process for taking on that risk. But the other approach, the traditional approach, is the psychological one, which again, the highlights of what the author puts forward as the examples of how that comes to life really are worth repeating for thinking through what the rest of the royal family and the tabloid media are doing, because it says the psychological approach highlights certain impediments to rational decision making, such as personalities, stress, anger, dismissal of evidence inconsistent with prior beliefs, commitment to group solidarity, overconfidence, and attributing evil intent to the opponent.
That is so good, because when you see what Meghan have been through to a point where she feels like she didn't want to be there anymore, this is what that drives them to what you hear from Harry in his latest video, what they've been through, her crying on her pillows. That kind of psychology, mental anguish that they put this woman and this man through for their own gain, for their power, for what they feel like somehow they're taking away from them, from the hierarchy, when it's really not true at all. I think both of them are enhanced. It's a way to move forward. And they could have harvested this. They could have done a much better job. But you're wondering, why were they taking this risk? And I will even go alone on this. And I don't know that to be true. I know many of us, and included I, we have a lot of disagreement with the late Queen. But I have a feeling the Queen last couple years have understood very well the importance of Harry and Meghan. And I think, in my opinion, based on what I've seen, based on how I'm now relooking at and rethinking things through, even to as for when the Queen basically get them in to the palace without no one's knew. I think the Queen wanted it more for them, and was trying to do the best she could, but was unable to. That is my opinion. And obviously I cannot get into it, but because I don't have any proof. But they're just looking at the certain moves, certain how Harry speak about his grandmother, and see who Meghan is. And the fact that, until today, they're still doing the Queen work. And I have a feeling that, what's happening, that whatever that is, that hatred coming from a very different place in the palace from the last, monarch, which was, Queen Elizabeth. I just felt like, there was things that was out of her control. I don't know. I mean, I know you disagree, and everybody probably disagree with me. But I am thinking, only if you think that she was completely on control, through her last years, okay, go ahead. And you can say that me, I don't personally believe that she was in control of everything. I think that, King Charles had already taken over. There was many things that was happening and everything, whatever the case is. I don't think, she's the Queen. I don't know if I should excuse her of any sort, but I'm just saying that, my own opinion on this is that I think she tried to do things. She tried even a lot of them. Let me not go into a rabbit hole here, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, here's my 2 cents on the whole thing. I think you have to look at them individually as well as collectively. I think you have to look at, what was the involvement, the risks and benefits, and the objective of the press? What was the same thing basically for Kensington Palace? What was the same thing for King Charles, now King Charles, back then Prince Charles? And what was the same thing overall for kind of the firm? I think each one of them had a different perspective in terms of how they looked at this entire situation. and they had different motivations in terms of how they wanted to address this particular situation. And it's really interesting to kind of look at it in that kind of dynamic, because who has power over whom in this particular situation is interesting. And then how that power was then manifested and then amplified, I think, is also very interesting. So what I mean by this is that the result basically of the amplification is kind of what we focus on, because the press and the media basically are kind of the loudspeaker on this whole thing. But this obviously was, and I think, we have lots of evidence and things to say about this even later on about, nothing happens in the media that was not directed by the palace or someone therein.
But I also...
well, hold on. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to kind of consider that, right? That there's objectives being pushed on them. And then I think those particular objectives are then, put out by the media, but I don't think that they are independent of, I think they could be independent of what's said in the palace. I don't think they say how to do it. This is what they want done. And then the media themselves then kind of express it in the way which going to either, one, amplify their own beliefs or amplify their own pockets. So I think it's interesting just kind of look at it and that dynamic. And then also the dynamic in terms of, okay, well, you had pre-Meghan Harry and how they treated him, and basically what his value was to the firm. You had when Meghan and Harry were together, like when they first got together, what was their value and had anything changed in that particular dynamic when they did get together versus just after they got married. And then after that, basically when all things went downhill. So it's interesting to see that progressive arc in terms of their relationship, and then basically how the media treated them through that entire arc, and then maybe draw some sort of understanding in terms of what their true objectives meaning, and then also how they try to position themselves and position Meghan and Harry through their work. But I think that's a really interesting thing to kind of look at. But you still have to go back to one of your earlier comments. Okay, well, where was the Queen in all this? Where basically were the kind of the different kind of courts behind this whole scene here? And then what were they trying to accomplish? So it's a very convoluted thing, but I think it all stems from, who actually is the bigger risk. I think to your point about, the Queen, I think she had a much bigger picture of what was going on. And I think she could see the fact of, okay, well, look, notwithstanding who was in charge at the time, it could have been Charles for sure, that he was actually directing what was going on, because she knew that she was leaving. So she probably wanted to get him to do that thing. But it's interesting just to think about, okay, well, look, I think she had a bigger picture of saying that, okay, well, Harry and Meghan actually were of greater benefit. And then at the same time, like there could have been a bigger risk for them to actually do the thing that they were doing.
Yeah. But I also, thinking about it more, Saturday just past yesterday, actually, I was listening to Celebrity, and one of the things that one of the girls said that what she thinks is that woman, the woman that become queen now, she may have a lot to do why the brothers, the fathers, it's almost like she's in control of a lot of the things that's happening. And I it's so easy to just looking at the media. And on one hand, we know what they are doing and give them but we also see how quickly they correct things too. And my thing is, what is it for them in the palace? Because, if we take them at the word, they are very powerful, and they sort of, the shaker and the makers, if they view like that, why would they allow the situation, understand the value of Harry and Meghan brought into the arena, right? Why would they allow that to fester the way it's,
Well, I think, and that's
why? If they are, the whole reason why the palace was able to have deal with them, because palace realized that, how much power the media have and not want them to constantly bashing them. But the media also has a say. So where is that come from?
Well, I think that's exactly why bringing this word choice from you, Lady Sussex, in terms of risk, to understand why those decisions were made the way that they were and why they continue to be made the way that they are. Thinking of it in the context of every decision, one way or the other, you're taking a risk, and how I'm trying to understand what are the things that are behind people, whether it is purely rational thinking, if it is the psychological approach, if it is this other sort of body of work that's thinking about how it's framed up and some of the other conditions that can influence the decision one way or the other. That's a really important lens to ask that question, because it is also a risk that is being taken not just by the rest of the royal family or by the tabloids, but just to actually segue from one of our brilliant co-hosts in the chat who did the hard work for us in terms of that segue, is the Majesty Sussex reporter, said that we're going on 8 years of this hate campaign, that he said he's never seen anything like it. Governments, women's rights organizations, feminists, they need to speak up. And to what I know we've been talking about in terms of the other risks that are being taken right now, it is not exclusive to the royal family and the tabloid media. There are also people who are really taking a stand right now, who are
That's
starting
right.
to speak up.
That's right, because that kind of risk that they have been taking, it seems very clear to people after 8 years you are bashing and going at a woman, and you see there is a part of the media, even a part of the circle, it's kind of like starting detaching themselves. I think the way Royal Sussex put it on, in maybe perhaps it's sending signal to the royal family that, you know what, we need to change course, because one of the risks that we saw last week or this week, it's the door is open. One of the risks, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this channel, Meredith. And she had what?
No,
You
you're
have
good.
to talk to me because I
he's gonna have
don't
to
know
play
this sign
the clip.
language.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to queue up the clip.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, checking on mom.
Okay. All right. There's something technical. Like it seems like we think we hear somebody at the door. We wanted to make sure we apologize for that. So what I'm thinking about it, Meredith actually landed this interview with this reporter or journalist, whatever you want to call her. And I think that, she did a great job. I didn't see the whole interview because I don't think she released all of it on YouTube. But the clip that she released, I think is very important, because I think this reporter or this journalist, take a massive risk, and the danger and that kind of risk for the royals, and perhaps maybe for even herself. So let's play the clip, the first clip.
I watched the documentary The Princess and the Press, which came out in 2021. Tatler, your piece came out in 2020. It was the July-August cover issue. I remember reading it and thinking, this isn't a hit piece. Do you think Tatler had any idea this was going to cause such an issue?
They were absolutely astonished. I absolutely said, personally, she may not be my cup of tea. However, she is the salve of the monarchy. She's in the perfect mold for the monarchy. We don't have a clue what she really thinks. I mean, I was absolutely shocked by the reaction to that Tatler piece. It created so much more of a fanfare by William and Kate reaching for the lawyers. I mean, they set out to sue Condé Nast for this piece. I had the world's media trying to get me to speak, and Tatler said, please, whatever you do, do not speak. And because I like them and have a good relationship with them, I said, of course I won't speak. And for 4 months this went on. It was a September evening and it was a Thursday, and I got rang up by the managing director of Tatler, who said, it's all been sorted with the New York lawyers, the office Condé Nast, it's all over. Most important thing is that you never speak about this. You can imagine my absolute horror and fury and frustration when I go to my newsagent on Sunday morning and the cover of the Mail on Sunday has this massive strapline, Kate's victory over Tatler, and then there's a 3-page takedown of me.
And who could have given that to
Oh,
the Daily
exactly,
Mail?
and very good point. And so I was so furious furious because I thought, well, Tatler must have leaked this. It was Sunday. I'm straight on to the editor. And he said, we are absolutely furious as well. We had nothing to do with that. A journalist came up to me in the green room and she said, I just had to tell you that you were completely right. Everything you said was right. This is years later. Williams Equerry reached out to the men on Sunday. On that Friday, we were told all on the paper to write this piece about you. We all like you. We didn't want to do it. I was given absolute proof. And I just said to her, oh my God, thank you so much for telling me. And she's like, oh, I thought you'd be furious with me. I said, no, I'm not furious with you at all. I said, it's just so comforting when you know the truth and you've spoken the truth, and yet you've tried, it's tried to be told that that's not the case, just to hear someone saying you were right. I went on the Princes and the Press documentary and I said this, but of course, even Anil Rajan was watered down. The things that I was saying on that documentary were a lot stronger. But by this point, the palace had put pressure on the BBC.
Can you tell us what you wish wasn't cut out, or something that you feel like people are really missing from the story?
Well, I think it just is the fact that, the Prince and Princess of Wales and various members of the royal family present themselves as sort of whiter than white and have this kind of dignified distance from the press, the grubby press corps. And that's simply not true. Their aides are leaking stories all the time. It's exactly what Harry said. He and Meghan didn't stand a chance because the palace were briefing the papers against him. What they do is they have these deals and they say, don't run that story, we'll give you this story. Yep. Narrative in Britain is, oh, they were lightweights, they couldn't cope with it, they want celebrity. I absolutely feel that they tried everything, that they got to the point where it genuinely was impossible for them to get their message out or to have a fair press or a fair representation in the press, and so they left.
This is damaging for the palace and for William in particularly. And that is a massive risk this woman just undertake to say those words and use name, because we all remember those Tabler crisis thing that was going on, but we know what happened. We know what happened, what exactly happened. She put her name, she's saying what exactly happened.
I think that's, for me, listening to that, it's there's sort of, because we are part of the Sussex Squad, and you know what is going on. You have a sense that this is just what it is, right? So in a sense, there's not a shocking element to that. But I think, to your point, Lady Sussex, it is so damaging for them right now to use names, though everything that she just articulated the way that she did. But also the thing that strikes me from the conversation, how we've kind of framed it up with this discussion of the risk-taking decision-making process, is that is someone who has not got the stature of Harry, does not have the security, the ability to protect oneself as Harry and Meghan do. And she has now found it to be in herself, to make the decision to come out and speak that truth.
Yeah.
For her, the calculus has changed sufficiently, whether it is psychological for herself, of her own volition, if it is the rational assessment of the conditions around her, that she's said, no, I have to do this. I have to say this. I come out and speak that truth. And that itself speaks volumes about the changing environment in which we find ourselves.
There is, and this is what I'm saying. They all keep at it, but you find, corner here and there, people are actually coming, even Boris Johnson, for God's sake. Do you understand what I mean? There is something that other people are realizing they don't want to play part of it. They want to clear their name before anything. There is a reason why some people are just departed from the royal or from what says who. Because even now, when you were looking at the reports, and you could see one reporter or one journalist, man or woman, sometime would be a little bit more positive than they will used to be. And at the same time, they are putting whatever they are putting, to me, what I call it, the hate, on her. Do you understand what I mean? But they try to distance themselves or speak with two sides of their mouth. I don't know however you guys choose to see it, but the way I'm looking at it, that, people do understand or coming to terms that, you know what these people are doing, it is wrong. Because, like that woman said, they think they're able to do this to a biracial woman, like who's not a celebrity, who's nothing, but they turn in this woman into an icon. And that icon right now, God forbid, if they were to ever touch this woman, what that will mean for everybody who have take part on that hate campaign. And I wonder if that's the kind of risk that they see they don't want to take no more for some of them.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, it seems like that's also what the co-hosts in the chat have been sharing. Vera Sao adding that she does not have any good feelings for her, that she's an evil woman. The one who was interviewed by what's her name, Meredith, and Black Queen saying that she has no empathy for this woman, that she added rubbish to the fray against Meghan. She's only mad because the gutter press double-crossed her. And so that is exactly kind of to that point of the changing system, the changing environment in which people that previously found the calculus to work in their favor to go against Meghan and Harry now are seeing the tides turn. And, that doesn't erase their history, but it does tell you something when you look at their decision-making today in terms of how they come out and what they say against the tabloids today.
We don't particularly need to feel sympathy for them. But in my view, in my opinion, we need to welcome this, because those are the very same people that who's been in that cook with, whether it's with the palace or whether with a thing, we need them to tell the truth. Because the thing about what just happened, and let's look at the second clip, because I'm going to say something very important, what that woman just created, and it probably be very, very good for Harry.
The second clip from the same.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the Netflix documentary. I was asked to review it for a newspaper, and I was sitting here, I think it dropped at 8 o'clock in the morning or something. I was sitting with my boiled egg watching television, and that just seemed such a fun job. And I was so struck. I thought, this man is telling the truth. He's absolutely right that they were briefed against. He's absolutely right that the phones were hacked, and that there was an agenda that the spotlight had to be on Charles and Camilla and then William and Kate, and he and Meghan were too popular after their Australia tour. And I tried to express that or write that in the British press. Those pieces did not get through. The thing that really infuriated me was that I spoke to members of the Royal Rota, old colleagues. I mean, come on a minute. You know he's telling the truth about phone hacking. You know this went on. And they all just go, well, yes, but it wasn't on all. But there's this sort of blanket denial, this kind of collective amnesia. And I just thought, well, I'm living in an echo chamber here. I feel like I'm screaming. I was once rung up by an editor from a major British broadsheet newspaper, and she wanted a piece on Kate. And this is post-Tatler. And I said, yes, my views are mixed. I said, oh my God, sorry, I've run the wrong person. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot you did the Tatler piece. No, we don't want your piece. Sorry, put the phone down. I'm like, okay, because you don't want a nuanced, balanced view. You want an absolute puff piece. It is this thing of building up one to tear down the other.
Exactly. You see, right there when she's saying that, to this world roaders, that phone hacking has been a thing. What's that tell me? She's not only aware of it, they have discussed it and they know when it happened. And where that can help Harry, that this woman can be called as a witness. And so I welcome anybody that want to flip. I welcome that. Doesn't erase what they do, but we should welcome them, because we need people like that that's going to actually be able to prove that, yes, we have been a part of that, whatever that is. What are the conversation? What are the, that was saying, who we should take account for that kind of hatred to this woman. So I welcome her, regardless why the reason why she chose to do that, but she put herself at a risk that will beneficiating not just us, how we sort of talk about the situation where we can pull those receipts. because even though, we have receipts, many receipts, but to hear it from one of those participant voice does make a difference.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important nuance that deserves to be repeated again, because not everyone in the Sussex Squad is going to go out and put Anna Pasternak on a podcast and actually play her remarks because of the sentiments of what she's done in the past.
That's right.
But the reality of what you just shared, of how important that is to the future, is critical, and it's not about forgetting the past. And I think there's something that you've shared with us a number of times, Lady Sussex, in terms of just advice for leaders and those who are working to improve their station. Right, is that as you start to succeed, more people are going to come and support you as soon as they start to see your success.
That's right.
But it is always important to remember who was with you in the beginning before you had any success, and who's maybe flipping. And as you go, that you make sure you keep attention to who is only starting to support you once you are succeeding.
That's
right. Because those have to be in very different buckets, and Harry and Meghan and the Sussex Squad will always do a good job with receipts of keeping track of that. But to your point, this change in the system, this change in the environment, how it can now be used by Harry and Meghan in their in potentially in future court cases, that truth of people actually coming and saying, yes, this is the truth now, that is something that should not be dismissed.
Yeah, because they're not. It doesn't seem like they're going to stop. I felt like what I think one of the things that what she's saying, is that they didn't think that she was. I don't think anyone thought that Meghan was gonna last as long as she did, because one of the things that they used to talk about before I even was getting so seriously into following, sort of Harry and Meghan. One of the things that I used to hear from, their marriage is not gonna last more than 2 years, and so what that tell me is that whatever the plan that they have, they somewhat thought that, this woman will be too weak to endure what we're about to do to her. That we're gonna upset the wedding. We're gonna play along, but we're gonna chase her out.
A torment. And
Let's
just be clear. It was torment.
Included using this woman's father. But I don't think what they did not bet is that, this woman was as strong and loved her husband and was not going to take the BSs, was going to live, but live with her husband. And that turned into hatred.
See, I have a bit of a nuanced view of that. I agree with you that that's what they were trying to do. They were literally torturing this poor lady. But I think that's as far as they thought. I think that they thought in terms of like the worst case. I never thought that they believed that Harry would ever leave. They have the memory. They have the memory of King George. They have this whole thing of like it was the worst possible thing. And there's many instances where King Charles himself has been, has been told to him by everyone around him that could never happen again. Like it was one of the biggest crises for the firm ever was basically when King George left. And so I think that they never thought that was even a possibility. And so when Harry did it, I think that one freaked them out. But I think what they really didn't count on, even if they thought in the back of their minds that may be the worst thing is that they left, is that they never thought they would be as successful as they are.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where the whole thing is actually kind of collapsing around them right now, is because at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want to say, but those lies are going to come true at some point. Those lies are going to be found out.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of where it is, because at the end of the day, like what they have credibility, right? Like they have credibility with their particular audiences. That's why people listen to them. That's why people click on their articles, is because they think that they're actually listening and getting some new information. The more this actually turns out to be false, the more their credibility is destroyed. And the more their credibility is destroyed, then they're going to actually have a bigger problem than what they do right now. There's going to be a crisis of confidence in the entire establishment, and now they're completely freaking out.
That's why I think it's so important to us to not just only document that and not back up just because she used to say whatever and now she's saying this somehow. We should ignore it because it is very important, especially for that audience.
Yeah.
Okay? That audience that will listen to them. And then now that, you know what, she's coming out and said, this is what happened.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because it again is a really perfect segue to I know what you have planned for the next clip, which is there is because of that change, because of people seeing seeing the writing on the wall, so to speak. You have people like Anna Pasternak who is flipping completely and saying, okay, this is actually what the truth was. But on the other hand, you also have people who have not flipped, but you can see the change in the way that they're actually coming to life in their interviews, in their remarks, how they frame things, the difference now. And I know there's one specifically in The Sun, and you're pointing out just the similarities in the talking points across different
That's
parts.
right. I was showing it to you guys, and you guys going to pay attention to the last two clips that we're going to play. That you realize not only there's something changing, because first they know that they can no longer speak that what Harry is doing is not good. So now they have to find a way. How do we talk about it? But at the same token, try not to highlight anything about Meghan, which is probably why they went into a rampage of that separation. But again, it still lead to we want this woman out. And so let's go ahead and play this clip.
We've been talking quite a lot about Prince Harry doing solo engagements recently, and I notice a sort of bit of a sea change, I think, in that what he seems to be doing now, which is rather wonderful, is doing what he used to do so well, which is engaging with youngsters and giving them awards rather than receiving an award. And I've seen him at work when he was a working royal in the Caribbean, and they absolutely loved him out there. He played cricket with the children, played football with them. He really engaged with them, and he seems to be doing that. And he is indeed doing it on his own without Meghan Markle. I must say, I do think that his recent visit to London and his visit to South Africa so far has been, very well received and seems all to be very positive, which is quite a relief after what's been going on before. Well, I think he's always been very drawn to Africa because you remember he spent some time out there earlier on, and it also relates very much to what his mother used to be doing with her charitable work. So I think Africa, Lesotho, Botswana has a very, very a strong place in Prince Harry's heart. So that again, I think, is positive. But she also, you see, remember before they married, she was very interested in the African countries, and a lot of actresses and film stars take on charitable works, and she was sort of working in connection with the United Nations. I mean, that's what I always thought was going to be so wonderful about their working relationship within the Commonwealth, because the Queen gave them the whole of the Commonwealth to explore. In other words, William and Catherine would do the domestic things, and they had a very successful visit to Australia, a slightly less successful one to Africa because of the Tom Bradby interview at the end, which kind of focused things on her instead of what they were trying to achieve. So I think Africa is important to him and brings out the best in him, frankly. So I think we probably have to wait a little while to see what happens next, whether this is a pattern which continues or whether this is just a one-off thing. But that will be interesting to look at in the fullness of time.
There's so much there. From, first of all, almost like I accuse, like it's Meghan's fault. She used to be interested into Africa as if like now she's no longer interested in Africa, which we know that is not the case. To, Prince Harry, love Africa. This is where it's been. Somehow that, it's Meghan's fault that he has not been there because this is what the Queen wanted and things like that too. Very early on when he talks about, oh my God, look at Harry with the children and everything, as if like that's not something that he's done anymore. I mean, have they seen the two?
Yeah.
The last two tours that they have done. I mean, it's kind of like, but if you looking at what they are trying to, at least in my opinion here, it's though that, how can we erase this woman? How can we paint this picture to people that is probably feel like we need to have Prince Harry in England. We need our prince back. But we have a problem. It's this woman.
Yeah. Well,
And truly, if we think that, what, he needed her, let's prove to them the work that he's doing without her, that he truly doesn't need her.
That's exactly it. And if you're listening and you maybe think back to just what was just played, like that clip, how it actually came across, the language that he used. I mean, there's a lot to unpack in terms of the specific word choice in a lot of different areas. But the thing that also comes across is he's almost talking about it as if Meghan were already a thing of the past.
That's right.
As if it was how they were so hopeful for the beginning of when they were together in the Commonwealth, the work they were going to do, which itself dismisses the context of what unraveled that situation in the first place and their role in it. But that idea that Harry's here now and Meghan's in the past, like that is something that comes across in just the way that he's speaking.
Yeah, and we're gonna go quickly onto that second clip. And guys, please pay attention to the clip that you guys just hear, the one from Arthur Edwards. That's a clip that we got from Royal Sussex. And watch the language, the same exact language was put out. Go ahead.
There were several clips that they shared. Most of them were irritating and, of course, predictable. But I want you to hear this exchange with Arthur Edwards and old Piranha Face. What's her name? Yeah, you know what her name is.
And he's not given that up, because when he's with those children, they're very sick children, he just makes them laugh and they hug him and cuddle him, and he just absolutely loves them.
Now, of course, he's speaking about the Well Child Awards.
So seeing him this week with Well Child and then seeing him going to Lesotho, two of the things he really loved, and seeing him doing it again made me wish I was back in the royal family, quite honestly, because he had a lot to contribute. And sadly, he decided to go live in America, and I feel bad about that now, because I thought that was awful what he did, and certainly when he wrote about his family in a nasty way, and that television interview with Oprah Winfrey. But you know what? I think you've got to forget that. And if he wanted to come back, I'd be happy about that.
Yeah, but the point is, he doesn't want to come back. I don't think. He regarded it as a trap. He still thinks his father and his brother are trapped, and he's finding his own way. And all credit to him. I actually object to the word Mexit. I think that's rude. I think Meghan has her own independent style and her way of life. And yes, it is not in tune with people in the UK, and she is not popular, and I don't think she wants to come back. And therefore, they are going their own ways to an extent. But I hope and believe that Harry is very happy in his life. And I don't think we should set up some rivalry between William and Harry. They both, as Harry said some time ago, didn't he, when we first heard about them splitting up a bit, he said, we are on very different paths. And they are on very different paths, but both are on a legitimate path, I think. Harry has said he views his mission in life to show up and do good, and I think he's doing that. And William is doing a brilliant job in the most difficult circumstances with so much pressure, because obviously of Catherine's.
Okay. So you know where that was going. William is doing a brilliant job because of Catherine's illness. They're both sick in various ways. She sounds like she wants to try to guide things in a reasonable way, not for Harry and Meghan's sake, but for the sake of the institution.
I hope that's what she's doing. But she's also, at the same token, lying. Because when you say that, she's not popular in England, then you guys have a problem. If she's not popular, why do you guys write about her so much, and why do you sell so much papers whenever you mention her name? So two things cannot be true here. You can't say she's not popular, but benefiting so much from her. You guys love to hate her. because I feel like whatever the agenda they had earlier on, in my opinion here, to me turned to hate because they cannot get rid of this woman that they thought that it was going to be very easy to get rid of. And the idea that she's not popular, then you have a problem. Then why then you guys write so much about her? And please, guys, did you guys see the language of Arthur when he's talk about the fact that, you know what, oh, that, you know, he will done so amazing thing if he back into the royal family.
The focus on the kids, yeah. I mean,
Do you
two
understand what I
clips back to
mean?
back there, they look like they were given talking points.
Exactly
Yeah.
the same thing. But why though? Why you guys all keep leaving this woman out, leaving Harry kids for everything we have come to know if they didn't know how much Harry feels about his kids and his wife? What is the message there?
Well, I think it's pretty straightforward. They're just trying to exclude any of the racial component behind, you know.
But is it just that,
in it.
or do they want that woman's head on a stick? Do they want what Jeremy, you know, have stated very clearly in the open that I don't know that to be, and again, maybe the palace had rebuilt that. But I don't remember any report that did that. And if I'm wrong about that, I apologize. But for something, that kind of hatred to come out, you know, worldwide, like everyone knew, because this is a very popular host guy that will make that statement. It wasn't just a nobody.
And and maybe just to slightly change the course a little bit in terms of maybe even going back to the very, very first planned clip that we had skipped over, because where you've built from is the narrative that was put out, the vision that was put out by Jeremy Clarkson and so many others, in terms of, he was talking about some other journalist or TV presenter was talking about hanging one of them over the balcony, right? Throwing them off the balcony. They have had these very visual descriptions of harm befalling the Sussexes, and specifically Meghan. And to this day, the talking points that they're given, even as they are trying to adjust to account for the success that Harry and Meghan are having, you hear in Arthur Edwards' words, you hear in the last, whatever his name was, the last clip, that they are specifically talking about Harry.
Hugo Vickers?
Yeah, Hugo Vickers. They're talking about this situation as if Meghan already did not exist, and how amazing it would be if Harry were back, and he'd be fantastic, all these wonderful things. And then you talk to exactly the reason why Harry is saying, I'm not going to bring Meghan back to this country.
I think it's important that we play this clip because how many ways they completely dismiss anything this man have to say or don't say, and you're wondering why. Could you play that clip from ITV?
All it takes is one lone actor, one person who reads this stuff to act on what they have read. And whether it's a knife or acid, whatever it is, and these are things that are a genuine concern for me. It's one of the reasons why I won't bring my wife back to this country.
Exactly. Because his fear and the fact that he understands what is at stake for his wife, to a point that, he will not even bring her back. The last time that, she come even close to England, she stayed at the airport. Do you understand what I mean? He understands the risk, and even one of the Met policemen came out and have stating, the danger and all the stuff. If only people knew what is being said. So when you have that kind of hatred, circle them. It is really, really scary. But I'm wondering, what part are we playing in this? The fact is that, when we looked at these thumbnails, when we looked at, and we looked at it as just money making, not a big deal, but they want that woman not be here.
I think that.
And I think there is a lot that, we need to not only just push back hard, but to demand that narrative changes. because right now they are being very slick about it, that you will put Jenny, whatever her name is, on. She said, well, they're very happy. I mean, like, put like a few sort of, sentences in there, and then, we should do. That's all sound good. But to me, it's them try to change things. Because what she is saying, they will never, if there's not a reason, they will not allow her to say it, to encounter what this guy said. There's a reason why that strategy is changing very, very small.
Yeah, and I think that's also why there's a really important distinction to be made between those clips and the slight change in talking points and tonality and the posturing that they're taking with the narratives they put forward. The difference between that and what Anna Pasternak did, because what Anna Pasternak did, for all of what she has done wrong in the past, the fact that she came out and said names, and specifically these people knew that it was the truth and they chose to hide it, or they chose to lie, and to actually put that out there publicly, because to your point, Lady Sussex, that can then be used to actually affect change, whether it is through the legal system or otherwise. And there is an important role for the Sussex Squad in particular to pay to keep track of, as has always been done,
as they have done an incredible job.
Exactly. But to also see those different things unfolding and to understand them in the different compartments that they fit.
Because when you look at even what they point out, whether 4 years ago, and I mean, and then now they still at try to sort of, make Williams or make Princess of Wales, into something that, maybe perhaps when they talk about doing work domestic and everything, whatever the case is. And we certainly would have support what is going on. But let's look at the work that they are talking about, how they talk about the Princess of Wales. Let's play the next clip from Baron.
All right, so Spat, as Sussex Squad warned, now this is from July 25th, 2022. Sussex Squad warned by Kate and Will's supporters, she will continue to rise. Prince William and Kate's supporters have warned Harry and Meghan fans, that's us, they should get used to the couple being front and center in the firm as they continue to rise. That has not aged very well, has it? How well has that aged? Huh? That has not aged very well. We didn't see Kate for what, 6-7 months? It is a monumental understatement to say that has not aged very well, but it has not. How shallow their lack of foresight. Yeah. Writing on Twitter, one royal fan said, Sussex Squad better get used to this. William and Catherine will continue to rise and receive more honors, official portraits, and jewelry from the Queen's vault. What are you, 3? Is this a 10-year-old or something? They are growing and thriving in their roles and will make fabulous prince and princess away. They're unstoppable. Did you all know they're unstoppable?
Again, well, I think they misunderstand who the Sussex are, as though we are sitting here and voting for, the Princess of Wales and Prince of Wales to fail. We would love to see them doing work. That's what been called on. We would love to do them. This is the taxpayer are supporting them, and we want to see them work.
Service is
universal. Service is
universal,
and that's included them. I don't know where this point or keep on saying that, well, they're going to be more successful. Please go ahead. charity works or whatever it is that you guys are doing and make it successful. And we want that. I don't think, or at least maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think, and I'm not speaking for the Sussex right on their feeling, but I don't not seeing anyone is sitting around and everything and said, oh my God, sort of, we don't want them to do good. In fact, that's the opposite I'm saying. Is that, you know what, we want to be able, we want people that was in that kind of level, who have that kind of platform to do good in the world because we feel like we pay for them. So do something. And that has been the complaint. And it used to be at one point the media complaint that at some point they used to call them lazy.
Well, I think
so. We didn't say that. That didn't come from, the Sussex Squad. That come from the media. So they need to talk to themselves, that they're finally going to do something, and we're still waiting.
Yeah, I think oftentimes people telegraph their attacks, right? That's a lot of people do that. They have tells. And I think this is such a huge tell because I think the root fear behind a lot of this is that they feel that Harry and Meghan, and specifically Meghan, is going to overshadow everybody. I think they saw that when they were over in the UK, that basically she just has simply, both of them, frankly, but especially Meghan, just simply has more charisma. Like she just simply has more charisma. Like people just gravitate towards them both much more than anyone else in the royal family. And they did not want to be overshadowed. They're literally like the worst thing for them is that they are they're seen as less than. And I think a lot of this is kind of a byproduct of this like paranoia that they have, which, frankly is true because they are just simply do a better job. They are better at their job than they are.
I agree with you. I think it's something that they think about now. I don't think earlier they think that deep and that she's better, I think that what, hey, we were gonna please Harry because the Queen has upset this wedding, and so we're gonna do everything that we can to get her out, even included saying that she should wait for 10 years before getting pregnant, which would have put her 50 or something like that. And we know how that is for many women, as they're getting, we're getting in an age, whatever, so have you, things are not as easy. And I didn't think they expecting she was going to get pregnant as quick and successfully as she did, spite of all the stress. But I think now they realize that the power of this woman, the power of the people behind this woman, the two of them as a couple, as a team, threatened the monarchy. But it didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be this way. Regardless how much charisma, they could have used that for the advantage of the monarchy and to push them forward.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I think this is for maybe a PhD student who is, one, smarter, and two, has more time. But to actually go and look through the headlines that have come out from the tabloids over this period of time, and to look at those headlines in the context of the greater sort of environment that was at play at a given moment in time.
Maybe that's what you should take for your PhD.
Yeah, exactly.
We should all do that.
Yeah. But to look at the change in the decision-making process and how the tabloids and these sort of select few tabloids that have been so focused in on this sort of hate campaign, how their decisions have evolved, how they've accounted for risk differently then. This is now, 2022 was this headline versus the headlines and narratives that are coming out now. Because the other big thing that is very different, and it is something I think the Sussex Squad is going to go down in history for, is as one of the first organizations and this distributed group, this community, not even organization, a community that has come together and focused on saying, we're going to keep receipts to protect these people because we love them and we believe that they're doing
That's
good work.
right, because when you think the clip that we just play with Baron is like something that he was looking at. I don't know how he stumbled on it. He was able to bring it to us last night. And in the next clip, you're going to see, what is it, 4 years ago later or 2 years later, they still at it the same way. Let's play that clip.
Princess Kate and Prince William's new approach to royal duties decoded by expert. Princess Kate and Prince William are embracing a modern approach to royal duties, showing warmth and reliability according to an expert. In other words, they're going to be more like Harry and Meghan. They're going to do their best to try to be Harry and Meghan. And of course, the article, which I did read this article, all they're saying is more about how Kate is going to do. Well, they were making a big fuss about Kate embracing that young child that is terminally ill, and the family had no idea that they were going to meet Kate that day. That was something last minute, and I believe Richard Kay alluded to that. That was something last minute that was contrived by the what do you call it? The PR office. So okay.
That is awful because I mean, as you guys know, I mean, cancer play a huge part, sort of on why my aunt is not here and my best friend, die at stage 1 of lymphoma. Uh, it's to me, it's not a word. It's nothing that I take that very serious whenever I hear, and I have a lot of compassion and care for anyone that was going through this because you never know what where you're gonna end up. And as a matter of fact, my best friend right now, her dad is actually fighting for his life, and what does that mean for them as a family? So it's something that I really take very personal. And the fact is that it was a last minute thing that they thought about, maybe that will make Princess of Wales look good to just put her just for a photo op versus maybe perhaps having a conversation, sitting down with that girl that it was planned just for her, giving her statement of having cancer and cure. I don't know. Is that thing? I don't know how to interpret it. Is she cure? Is she, try to be cancer? I don't know because their statement, I'm still trying to figure out how to report and talk about it because it's not clear to me. And to hear, and I didn't know that until now. I listened to this clip again because I listened to, Well Sussex, last night, late last night to this morning. I missed that part. This is what I'm saying. You miss a segment, you miss anything. It's like he says that she is terminal ill. That is heart wrenching, just to even hear, and that she would be put in a situation to meet somebody she was not expect to, and not being able to have a conversation. What was that conversation like? And they told on them because they didn't need to report and say that it was not planned because that even make her now look really bad. And then they're blaming us, Sussex Squad, for these situations. That is awful.
Yeah, and I think it also goes back to those two clips back to back in terms of just the difference in what the headlines were and what the narratives were 2-3 years ago versus what they are now.
They're still saying the same thing.
And the coordinated effort, because the last thing that Baron added there was that this sort of at the suggestion of their PR, right? And so that their actions tied to the actions and the narratives that are coming out from the press and how they're evolving in reaction to Harry and Meghan's success, needing to pivot accordingly, but ultimately in many ways still having the same objective, which is unfortunately they're still focused on Harry without Meghan.
But now we just went through all that risk everyone is taking. So how should we keep everyone accountable, included, the the government there.
Yeah, there it is. Caught on the word.
Yes, the government there. That I feel like when you hear the statement coming from Boris Johnson, what he feels like that they are, Harry and Meghan, I'm talking about, are in assets.
Mm-hmm.
to the English people, to the state, which is something that I say now very recently, that why it is a must that, we defend Meghan and we stand up with her, because she is now American asset and we got to protect our asset here. And thank you for giving us Harry.
I was about to say, now Harry is actually an American asset
to us.
So they just
and
threw it over to us.
And that.
Absolutely.
But to hear him saying that, so what that tells me, if even that conservative, even that part of government aware what was going on, why did they not step up earlier on or make it, some of it go away and not been as brutal as it was for them, they literally, right after he had that conversation the next day, they were gone.
Right.
So should we start now by having Boris Johnson come out and confess to what he has confessed on? How many of them are aware of that pain, that suffrage, everything that was going on, the loss for England? Who should be accountable for that loss? Is it the media? Is it them? How should we look at that, sort of strategy that I feel like they are losing, but they are taking risks that felt very scary to us? I think it is really important for us to actually hear Boris Johnson on his own words.
And just to segue into his own words, with another brilliant transition from our co-host, Jadida Najeru, says, can you just try to imagine what the royal family would have become if they had supported Harry and Meghan?
Absolutely. So let's listen to Boris Johnson interview with Kamala Tammany, which, anyway, I won't say what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Prince Harry and Meghan, in my view, they came to an event we did for female education. They were brilliant. And she was particularly good and articulate and on it and on the detail.
So you got on quite well with Meghan?
Yeah. I got on well with both of them. And I also worked with Harry when he did his Invictus Games for disabled veterans in the Olympic Park. And so in a sort of, fit of pomposity, I thought, this national asset is leaving our country. I think he's a force on the whole, could be on the whole a force for good. I'm going to try and discourage him. And so I had a pathetic attempt at that. It didn't work.
No.
And there you go. I failed to avert Megxit, but I did deliver Brexit.
You see what he said here? A force for good. That kind of understanding, and it fell. And again, earlier on, that word Megxit, which very early on, that woman says that, what was her name again? Oh God, what was her name? That, we played the clip.
Meredith? Or Anna?
Jenny Bond, I think.
Jenny Bond. She was saying that, oh, how rude. Now it's rude that them calling Megxit. Or they try to work it back.
Yeah.
Or they try to work that word back. Because now, again, when we hear it from Boris Johnson talking about, well, we didn't deliver Megxit, but we deliver whatever it is that, sort of that she's saying. Brexit.
Yeah. Well, honestly, they're both failures.
Do you understand?
If you look at it, they're both complete and utter failures, because obviously Brexit is giving rise in terms of what's going on in the economy right now, and then already talking about the assets that they lost.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is, at some point, who is going to be accountable for that loss of asset that he said? He said, I didn't say, we know that all along. Nobody's listening to me. Do you understand what I mean? But you will listen to Boris Johnson. Mm-hmm. Do you understand what I'm saying? He was in the mix of all the power of England. He was the prime minister. He's still very much attaché to those type of organization. And he's saying they were a massive loss, a massive asset. And that asset, which is why they want that asset back. But they want it back, and they think the only person that is on the way of them getting that asset, and I don't know why they think so, it's Meghan. And the reality is, we know what happened to Harry and Meghan over there. We know why they left. And we know right now why they would not go back. And you don't have to take my word for it. I think this video that, was being put in this week from Harry for BetterHelp, it's incredible. I think it says a lot. And that would be our last clip to summarize everything that we've been talking about. Not only why they leave, what they done to it, and why they will not come back, and everything that happened. So I think it's important. But before I go to that clip, is there anything you'd like to add up?
There's one thing. I think maybe it's planting the seed for you for maybe a future service, because I know you put a lot of thought into what we talk about each Sunday. But this idea of risk taking and watching the narratives start to evolve in terms of what comes through from different parts of the tabloid media and different reporters who, like Anna Pasternak, who's come out and flipped basically. And in that context again of the calculus behind risk decision making, there's a lot of popular movies. Usually it ends up being about like mobsters and gangs and whatnot, and you try to get at the mob boss, and the police or whoever it is that's working against them has to go start from the bottom up, and they start flipping people who flips on other people, who flips on other people, flips on other people, ultimately finally getting to the top. It's like one of those. I don't know if it's a real strategy among the police, but at least it comes through in popular culture that it is. You start at the bottom and you flip and work your way up. And so if you're looking at this in terms of your question, Lady Sussex, of who's the one that's ultimately going to be responsible, who's going to ultimately be left holding the bag at the end of it all, it's a really important question. Don't know what the answer is. Don't know who actually is responsible, and it may be a different entity or person of who's actually going to be left holding the bag, who's going to get the blame at the end of it. But it seems like a potentially fitting analogy to think through the flips that are happening right now, from its Anna Pasternak to its the changes in the narrative to Boris Johnson, as the beginnings of that process, where you start at some people whose their calculus changes, say it's now in my best interest to tell the truth, and then it goes from there and it starts to unravel.
It scares me. It really, really, really scares me, because we have seen evidence of how the media was able to do a quick flip, after Diana, from what I understand, to, many others that have been suffering, from the tabloids, and how they quickly to flip and then make it's somebody else. But this time there is something feel very different, where it's almost like they try to do the flip before the storm, so to speak. It's almost like they're up because they are not laying out. And I wonder, should we stop leaving that woman who become queen a part of this conversation? Because she now a queen, and a lot of what's happening, we have to put her the center of this. And we also have to really stop making excuses for these thumbnails and these people that, that kind of hatred. And we just heard from Harry what he says. It's only take one person. And I don't believe the hate against them stop. These people who try to cause them harm. Is there something in the works similar to what happened to New York that was not successful? I am literally, guys, really, really, really scared. And I want to be positive, but there is something fishy. There is something cooking. There is something change. It's very easy to say now they are flipping. It's all going to be good and all going to be nice. Maybe the tides are turning, whatever the case. But is it? Because if you are bringing the house down at your expense and damage, it has to be for something. But what is that something? What is that big price that worth to just completely destroy? Oh my goodness. Destroy that media form that they had. They were called, sort of kingmakers, over there. I'm talking about the tabloid. to the royal family after 1,000 years of ruling allow themselves to find themselves in this place where they are in. There must be a prize at the end of this for them to risk it all. And before I get into the last clip of Harry, I really would like you to read what you just read, the race part, as you're getting into it, all those visions, so we can have that in our mind as we're going into the last clip. You didn't know I was going to do that.
Didn't do with the risk,
the
journal?
The journal, yes.
Sure. So again, this is Why Take Risks. It's a review of the work Risk Taking in International Politics by Rose McDermott, the review by David J. Purvin. International relations is an inherently risky realm. Policy choices have implications for gains and losses at home and abroad, whether economic, military, or political. Leaders can make decisions in uncertain environments, and policy outcomes are partly determined by their choices and partly by the choices of foreign leaders. Understanding, explaining, and predicting when leaders are more or less likely to take risks and what type of risks they are likely to take is of the utmost importance. Two major trends in analyzing risk decision-making in international relations are the rational choice and the psychological approaches. The rational choice approach, derived from economics, has developed a normative model of how decisions should be made, emphasizing how cost-benefit calculations combine with probabilities for achieving the best or optimal outcome given certain constraints. The psychological approach highlights certain impediments to rational decision-making, such as leaders' personalities, stress, anger, dismissal of evidence inconsistent with prior beliefs, commitment to group solidarity, overconfidence, and attributing evil intent to the opponent. More recently, a third approach to explaining risk policy decisions has drawn on the cognitive literature known as prospect theory. McDermott, an assistant professor of political science at Cornell University, provides a concise introduction to prospect theory's findings and the implications. Prospect theory differs from rational choice and psychological approaches in two critical ways. First, prospect theory indicates that people are risk averse when seeking gains and risk acceptant when attempting to avoid losses. And second, that whether a situation is viewed as involving a potential loss or gain depends critically on how the issue is framed, perceived, or portrayed, not necessarily as a function of its objective characteristics.
And we will move on to our last clip. Harry, his own word.
The clip broke.
Oh, dear Lord.
But it was a great setup, though.
Our last clip. So what is the problem?
Such a cliffhanger.
It really was.
I know. Oh, my God. I thought I had it going.
We're gonna make you do the whole dramatic.
Yeah, it was. It was.
It wasn't dramatic. It was just. Oh my God! So what are they saying on?
Well, actually, I will take a quick break because there's something that's been very important going on in the chat that we just have to recognize, and that is Church Nellie. So Church Nellie, and there's been a lot of commentary just around the idea of cancer and how serious it is.
Yes.
And she gave us an update to her own situation, to which says that she's actually going back into the hospital to get a CT scan on 10/9 to see if there's any progress, or basically if she's cancer free, to get an update in terms of what her condition is.
I'm going to be
so
hard.
There's tons and tons of support for her,
Yes.
which is the function of this community. So we definitely uplift you, Church Nellie, and certainly we'll keep you in our prayers, as I know that the entire community will. But definitely wanted to just speak that out and not let it get too much further, because we had a roll going. That is certainly something that we, you are very close to us, Church Nellie. You make us laugh like no other.
The first one.
But
to give it the highline that, you know what, maybe, you should pay attention to them. Like, she was the only one, the first recognized name that I know.
It's true.
That was Church Nellie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for everything you do for this community. And, this community will never be nothing without you. And so we're going to pray hard. We're going to be with you. And I know it's going to be joyful.
Yeah. So as for the clip, we'll have to follow up with it later, because the way in which
No. He's
it's going to be done the other way. Oh, great. Okay. Well, then it's coming. George is just feverishly working to see if he can pull it from his side.
But in the meantime, how many people we have in the chat now?
Well, there's 213 that are currently watching.
Okay, let's see.
And it looks like it may George may have figured it out on his side. So
Well,
let's see.
we'll find out. They'll let us know in the chat. Our co-hosts are good at letting us know.
That's right. So that would be Harry and his onward after we just playing Boris Johnson. So here we go.
Maybe not.
Oh my God, you guys. You guys are too much.
It's going to be the third tries the charm.
You guys are supposed to be the tech person, right? You could detect, the troll, where they are, where they at, what address they are in, where they are coming, what agencies they're a part of, and you can't figure out how to put. Oh my goodness!
It all there has to be a little bit of spice in every show, and so here's your moment of spice. So yeah. So anyway, you can just visualize it yourself.
To send it.
No,
to him?
but no, because the way that it's connected, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
So it's fine. We'll post it later. We're still working in the background.
George determined after
Yes.
embarrassing me, of course.
It's not it's more of an embarrassment to us, frankly.
I just
than-
lost
than
the
you.
flow.
Yeah, we had it rolling. But in the meantime, knowing that things are going so splendidly, I also do have our verses for the day.
Right.
So shall we just move on to those?
No, we're not going to move to verse.
We're not going to go on
yet
yet? Okay, we're going to wait.
because George here wants that.
He's gonna make it
clip to play.
happen.
It is important. I think it's important that we hear it. Because I think that clip was released yesterday, so maybe there's many people that probably have not yet.
Before the Oprah interview
So
had aired,
here we go.
because of their headlines and
Harry
that
and his
combined
onward.
effort of the firm and the media to smear her. I was woken up in the middle of the night to her crying in her pillow because she doesn't want to wake me up because I'm already carrying too much. That's heartbreaking. I held her. We talked. She cried and she cried and she cried. Therapy has equipped me to be able to take on anything. That's why I'm here now. That's why my wife is here now. Without therapy and without doing the work, we would not be able to withstand this. I've never had any anger through this. I've always had compassion. Making this move was really scary. Like at every possible opportunity, the forces that were working against us tried to make it impossible. Did I expect to find ourselves in this situation so quickly? No. I think we've done a really good job. And I have no regrets. It's incredibly sad, but I have no regrets at all because now I'm in a place where I feel as though I should have been 4 years ago.
And a special shout out to Sussex Spotlight for that clip in particular.
Absolutely. They do an incredible job. You have Sussex Love. You have all of them that, they keep those clips going. So thank you all for that. We are now going to leave it as that as we move to others, because I think we need to let this settle into what Harry's saying, what Boris Johnson said, and have that kind of understanding. The kind of risk that they are taking is the prize that Jeremy Clarkson, that target that want Meghan to parade on the street, that's what worth all that? Is that the end for it? And we need to play really hard because I don't understand. I don't know. I'm just like here asking the question because it just, all of it make absolutely no sense to me. No sense whatsoever. And if you are fighting that hard and you are doing such a disturbing work for your career, for everybody's involved and the media, and probably will bring the whole sort of institution down, on this idea. This couple you guys could work with, can do things with, and decided to go the other way and continue pushing. There must be something at play here. Fighting to the end at all costs. And I want to make sure that, you know what, we play as hard as possible and never taking for granted things are happening for Harry and Meghan. Somehow they are okay. No matter how many securities that they have around them, but we need the Lord with them. And we need to pray and pray hard. And we need to keep our receipt. And we need to keep people accountable. So let's move to verse.
Yeah, I still think we're checking to see if people can still hear us after the clip.
Nobody can hear us.
Yes,
Now?
they can. They can.
Okay.
It was
Very
confirmed.
good.
So we're good. So for the Bible verse we have two today. The first will be about safety, and it's Psalms. And Psalms is just such a great, I mean, it's meant as poetry, and it really delivers sometimes. So it's Psalms 138, verse 7. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, you preserve my life. You stretch out your hand against the anger of my foes. With your right hand, you save me.
Amen.
Which I just think is beautiful. So, and the second is about peace. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let them be afraid.
Amen. And I hope is in that peace that God gives them, that's able, every time we see Meghan, there is a sense of, if there's a lot of worry, and I'm sure they are, that you are unable to see that. There's a glow about her that feels very spiritual. When you see Harry now, there's a little bit more relaxed that with him. That does not mean he doesn't understand, he doesn't know the risk, because we just hear him talk about it. But enough that he find compassion. And so I hope the Lord continue protecting them, protecting their family, especially those two angels that they have, Lily and Prince Archie, because they not only need it now, they're going to need it for the rest of their life. That protection, that guidance, that love, that care from the great God above. So let's move to prayer now, George.
There is so much to pray about. There's so much to pray for. We've covered some of it already in terms of the community. We ask that you be with everyone who is going through issues right now, whether it is at home, with health, with school, with work, all those who are confronting hard times, especially those who are affected by Hurricane Helene and other disasters that are happening really across the world. Please be with them, give them strength. But today, especially, in addition to the ever-present prayers for the Sussexes and their family and their safety, in the context of how much work they have packed in over the last 2 weeks in particular, and really for everyone who is confronting those challenges, as Charles just mentioned, like Church Nelly and everyone who's confronting diseases head on. And there's so much around you, swirling around you in the world, people like Prince Harry and Princess Meghan who are running from one continent to the next to try to make the world a better place. It is easy to get lost in the madness, lost in the busyness. And so we pray for everyone, for the Sussexes, for the Sussex squad, for everyone who is going through those times, for an opportunity for some peace and some stillness, to be able to recover, to be able to take care of one's own mental health. It's one of the things that Harry and Meghan have done so well, is to make sure that that is something that is not taboo, that it is actually talked about. And we pray that everyone has the chance and takes the time to really take care of themselves as we do head into one of the busiest times of the year.
And also, I think it's to move, as Harry say, compassion, which is sometimes very hard to find that compassion when you know there's so much, hatred coming at you. But I think we also have to acknowledge when God manifests itself in a way that perhaps that we don't understand, when the enemy is coming at us with the truth and how we should hold that truth. and being able to use it and apply it for when we need it, and not to dismiss it because they once was in a place where they probably even have their own agenda. But whatever the reason why they are speaking out, let them speak. And so we have to pray for our community. The fact is that, this community in general is dealing with so many challenges. Somebody like Church and Alley, who must be thinking, about Tuesday or whenever she has to go. But yet she's able to be here. She's able to laugh. She's able to make jokes. That could only possible because of the great Lord. And we cannot forget how wonderful and how we need to believe, how, Princess Meghan have said, our faith need to always be bigger than our fear. And so I will leave it as that. Remember that, because that quote have such a big, deep thing on me when I heard it the first time. Your faith needs to be bigger than your fear. And so I'll leave it as that. We will release our song later on this afternoon. So it will be one that you guys probably familiar with. Once you go black, you never come back. And yes,
you're channeling your inner Church Nelly with some humor at the.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So have a pleasant Sunday. Have a great Sunday. May the Holy Spirit fill all of you and your family. Stay true to yourself. Love always wins. Happy Sunday. Have a good day. If God willing, we'll all be with you again next Sunday. So please look for our Sunday church service song. And I hope the service this Sunday was not too long for
another marathon.
For Royal Sussex Day. I only listen to half hour of it. I don't want to listen to 3. No, he was just playing. But anyway, so yeah, have a good Sunday. May God bless you all. Good day. Goodbye. Love win.